In this video, we're going to explore FreeCAD. We're going to start with the interface and let's go see some really basic paths and notions. So you can start using the software. So the first thing is going to appear probably in this last version is this welcome screen or start screen. Now it's also visible down here. So down here you can see the open documents and you can choose to open this every time or not to show it again. Down here you can check this checkbox on the bottom right. So let's see what we can find here. So at the top we have new file. So we need to decide which type of document we want to create. Now this is in Italian at the moment because I've chosen to use it in my own language. But to change the language, what you can do is go here to edit. So also let's see this other important part of the interface, which is the standard drop-down menus that we have in any software. So here we have file, we have the basic operations. So we can create a new file, open a new file, close it, save it, etc., etc. Now also we have shortcut keys on the right side of the menu to recall that command without actually going every time. So if you memorize the shortcut keys as usual, this will be better for you to work faster and better, more optimized. So the next menu, it's edit menu, and this is where we can access the preferences. So also here we have some really interesting and basic commands like going back and forward or undo, redo, Control Z, Control Epsilon, and then we have copy, paste, and cuts, and other stuff like refresh and so on. So if we go down here, we can access the preferences. Now in the preferences, in the general section, which is the first one on the top, and is the one that should appear the first time you're gonna open this panel, we have the language. So we can change it here. We can change the language. We can also change the units if we want. Like in the default or standard, we're using millimeters, kilos, and other units. And then we can set up the number of decimals. So probably if you're using millimeters, you need 1 or maybe 2, but if you use meters, probably you need more, etc., etc. And that's it for now. I don't want to spend times in the preferences because some of these are pretty advanced and you don't want to mess up with the preferences, so be careful on that. So here one last thing we already saw is the application theme. So we can change it to dark to light. And in my opinion, for this last version, the dark version is better because it's well, this is a little bit too much for my eyes. So the dark one, it's pretty good. I think I'm gonna stick with the dark theme. So apply for a few seconds and then say okay. Now I don't know why it's not translating this part, but maybe I need to close and reopen. And now it's working. So you can see here the new file can be a new parametric part, or could be an assembly of parts, could be a 2D drawing, could be a BIM architecture project, an empty file, or you can open an existing file. Now here we have recent files, the ones that I recently opened, which are some examples that you can find down here. So this is the examples part. Now to start doing something, otherwise everything is kind of grayed out here, we can open one of these. And I'm going to use this beam example, which is kind of a small building, a house, or something like that. And you can see now everything turns on, which means I can start to work inside the project. Now, as you can see down here, we have now 2 pages to reviews we can open. One is the start and one is the file we just opened. And so we have these drop-down menus on the top, which contains all the commands we need, and we're gonna see little by little. And also here in the view, we have a lot of tools we can use to manage the view, which is this central part of the interface where we can see our project. So the first thing we can do, for example, is change from perspective to orthographic. So orthographic is kind of 2D, it doesn't have the perspective deformation, which is the way we perceive reality. So this is kind of better to understand. And also what I've done now is I moved the view up and down and left to right. So this is called a pan movement or panoramic movement. And you can do that by clicking on the scroll wheel. And if you scroll the scroll wheel, you're gonna have a zoom in and zoom out if you scroll the scroll wheel. If you hold the shift key and the right mouse, you're gonna have an orbit, which is essentially moving in 3D, watching your object from many different point of views. And there you go. So these are the shortcut keys for the navigation as at the moment. You can change them. So if you go down here again at the bottom, you can change the units. You can also change the type of navigation and also the orbit style. But let's say you are a Blender user, right? Then you can set up this to be similar to Blender or CAD, like AutoCAD or LibreCAD. And you also find these courses in the channel like Maya, Revit. Also, this is one of the most important tools for or software for BIM or building information modeling, etc., etc. So you can change it down here. So navigation is probably one of the most important thing you need to learn at once, because it gives you the possibility to move around into your project, move back and forward, change the view, etc., etc. Now there is also, when you use the mouse, if you click with the left mouse, you can select. And you can also pre-select when you roll over objects. You see they will turn into blue color. That means a pre-selection. So if I can see now that I can select this before even selecting it, which is an edge. So if I click, you can see now I selected that edge. And every time I select something with the left mouse click, it's gonna change something here. This is the view and data. So this is how the object is viewed in this viewport. And data are the information of that object. So discounting the view. And up here instead we have a hierarchy of objects that are now in the scene. So all the parts of this project are listed in here. So that's the model tab or model panel. And then we have the task, which is to create things. And down here, view and data tabs. So these are panels or tabs that can be also closed, and you can make it floating, you can dock it, undock it, etc. So I don't want to touch anything right now. I just want to show you the default interface. Now here we also have the axis, X, Z, and epsilon to show you the various directions of the 3D world. And up here on the top right, we have, well, I'll call this view cube. It's essentially a gizmo that you can use. If you click on this gizmo, it's gonna change the point of view. You can see your object from the right, the left, the rear, and the front. You can see it from the top or the bottom. You can also use these arrows. You can use also these other arrows to rotate it, to rotate the view. And you have this little, well, let's go into the front. And this little circle is going to switch, it's going to show you the other side. So this is the rear. That's the front again. That's the rear and that's the front. And if you click on this cube, you have extra options. Again, you can switch from orthographic. Now, when you're using a front or rear or other views, this becomes basically a 2D representation, not a 3D representation anymore. So it can be good for creating sheets and printed representation of your project. And there are also some measurements here for the stories, for the levels of the building. And then we have isometric. view. Also, you have some zoom option here. So feed all is going to zoom everything into the window. Let me go back to perspective now, and let me just move around like this. So let's say I want to quickly zoom into a part, which could be, let me see here, this part on the back, or like these stairs. So double click. So one time is going to select part, two times is going to select the entire element. And then let's do feed selection. So you can see it goes there quickly. It's going to frame the thing you're selecting. And also you can align the view to the selected part. So let's do this, align. Okay, it went like upside down for some reason. Well, depends on that is inserted or is generated. But anyway, we have extra navigation tools right here. And you can make these also movable if you want. You can move it around. You can just make it stick there in the corner. Okay, so we see something about the interface. Now we explore the interface, fair enough. So other things you want to know. So when you select like this, or you go over an object, you right click, you can find again these options like feed all, feed selection, align to selection, draw style, and well, actually we didn't see draw style yet. So basically, draw style are different ways you can see your model. So you have points, and then you have wireframe to see the structure inside. Now, these can also be found on the top. So let's go back on the top of the interface. Let's continue to explore the interface. So we have here, let's say the quick action toolbar. So these are probably the most common things you're going to use. So you have new document, open document, save document, undo, redo, refresh, and we can change workbenches or layouts. So if now we are in part design, but actually we are working in a BIM model. So probably here we want to be in another interface for the BIM or BIM. So if I click here, you can see your workspace is going to change. So depending on what you're doing, you probably want to, choose the correct workbench as it's called, or workspace or layout. And again, we have zoom in or fit all, fit selection to zoom in, zoom out. And here we have again the views. And there we go. This is the visual styles. So draw style. Hidden line, it's another one. No shading, so without shadows. Shaded, and then we have the flat lines, which I believe it's the standard. And other tools here we're gonna see later. I wanna go over with all of these because these are so many. This is for sketching, and down here this is for modeling. These are modeling tools like extrusion, and then refinement tools for the modeling, etc., etc. So we have drop-down menus, we have toolbars, we have panels, and these are all to help us work and navigate into the 3D world, into the 3D scene. So we're gonna start really easy. We're not gonna go too quick. We're gonna see things little by little. So for the less expert users, otherwise you can just move ahead or see other lessons, or you can just fast forward the lessons if you are more expert. You can change the speed in YouTube as you know. So I'm gonna go back up here. So I want to show you some really basic stuff for this first video. So if I save this, well, let me make a change to this. So if I select an object like this, we can see how it's displayed in the view and what are the data. So this is what it means. BIM, or building information modeling, is you model through the information. So let's go back to the view, and Let me change, for example, here, transparency. Let's put this to 50. So that's going to be a little bit transparent. So I've made a slight change in my project. So what happens is down here we have a little star. That little star represents the fact that I made some changes here, but I didn't save it yet. So if I want to save this change, I want to go to File, Save As, and every time you're gonna save the first time, it's gonna always put you in the Save As. So the other times, if you select Save As, is not to replace the document that you're working with. Shortcut key Control S. So I'm gonna save as, not to don't like override the current document. And I need to choose a folder in my, let's call this like beam example 2, for example, and let's make save. So you can see that I cannot save it right here. It's gonna put me in this folder that I have, which is called JBD, and I'm gonna save it there. And this is the format of a FreeCAD document. So I'm gonna save, and I've already done this, so it's already there. And now it's asking me if I wanna override. Now be careful when you override, because you are basically overriding the previous file. So you cannot retrieve the other one. So be careful to choose if you wanna save or save as. And then you have close or close all. You can open recent document from here. You can open any other document in FreeCAD format you have. For example, you can see now I can open up the one I just saved, and I can print if I want. I can export a PDF. I can import and export using different types of formats. So if I go here, import, and I click here, you can see the list of the formats that I can import, and there are so many of those. So you can use, for example, GLTF, which is open source, or GLB. You can find these in many websites. OBJ, like in Maya or Cinema 4D, they use OBJ. STL, this is printing format, 3D printing. SVG, scalable vector graphics for 2D development, or you can export as an image. So image formats, you can export your work in binary mesh, Collada. You can export in 3D Studio, OBJ, Alias, etc., etc. The AutoCAD, 2D, 3D, etc., etc. So you have so many options. So you can also export, and in this case, we need to select something we want to export. So let's say I want to export this wall. Okay, and again, I have a lot of options to export. So you can do import, export operation. Now, going forward here in the menus, also Windows menu, I think it's really interesting to know since the beginning. So with this, you can tile the various projects you are opening, because you can open also another one. Let me show you. If I click on this other one, now I have 3 windows open, so I can manage them in a cascade, or I can make them tile. So I have now 3 different tiles. If I close, you can close it from here. You can close it in using this. And if you didn't make any change, you will not see the star, so you can just close it. It's not going to tell you anything. Otherwise, it's always going to tell you if you want to save the file. And let me see here. So also you can switch windows from here, and that's it. So this is to show you that you can open up many projects at a time, and you can switch, or you can watch them, every one of them at once. So I'm gonna stop here for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe to the channel to support us. Also, you can join the channel as a supporter. Check out other videos and courses we have published in the past, like from AutoCAD or Maya or Blender or whatever. See you in the next lesson.